If you're looking for the best laptop for digital art, graphic design, or photography, you came to the right video. I'm going to walk you through from the budget category all the way up to the high-end devices and talk about what you get at each stage of the buying process, depending on the budget you have. I'm also going to explain the specs so you understand for yourself what you are purchasing and why you are purchasing it. So you don't just look at the price and equate the price to the performance, because the specs are very, very important. Now, I've also made this a slimmer selection than I have in the past. I only want to recommend the top quality devices that I would pull out my wallet to purchase. And so if it's not on this list, it's because I would not personally purchase it. So if you ask, I will say no, because these are the laptops I've included on the list that I would buy. If you want to know the live pricing, head down into the description below, click those links, you can check that out. If you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. I'm so grateful when you all use those links because that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. We're gonna start out in the entry level budget category, and I'm gonna walk through things and talk about the specs as we're working our way through the video. First and foremost, we're gonna kick it off with the HP Pavilion. This is going to be the most budget-friendly device that I recommend at $600. And you might say, well, Ben, $600, the unmitigated gall. Well, do you want the device to perform well for you, or do you want to feel like you want to saw it in half with a table saw at the end of every workday because it was so annoying and bottlenecked so much? I only want to recommend a device that I would personally want to work on. With 16 gigs of RAM and a Ryzen 7, that's where I would start. That is what I would feel confident working on a day-to-day. Because when it comes to RAM, random access memory, you want to have at least 16 gigs of RAM. The reason why, every time you open an application, your system is going to pull from the RAM in order to temporarily use that application. And so to boot your laptop, you're already going to be using a half to a gig. If you go ahead and open up Google Chrome, depending on how many tabs you have open, you could be using anywhere from 3 to 5 gigs of RAM. Google Chrome actually uses a lot. And then you open up Photoshop. Then you open up Adobe InDesign. Then you open up Adobe Illustrator, or perhaps using the Affinity Suite, so Affinity Photo or Affinity Designer. And then you find yourself using 6 to 8 gigs of RAM. And so immediately your system has to bottleneck, suppress the performance in order to actually cope with the amount of work you're doing on your device. So if you're a big multitasker, I definitely recommend 16 gigs of RAM because it's going to give you the performance that you need. Now, moving on to the Asus VivoBook 16. The Ryzen 7, 5800HS, great efficient processor, gonna have some good battery life. 12 gigs of RAM, not my favorite recommended, but at least it's not 8, let me tell you that. And then of course we have 512 gigs of SSD. Next up we have the Asus ZenBook 14 OLED. This is going to come with the Intel Core Ultra 5 or 7. Now the 5 is going to be the U version of the chipset, so you're going to have Intel graphics on the 5. The 7 is going to be the H series version of the chipset, so you're going to have ARC graphics. So if you're somebody who wants to hook up multiple displays to the device, the ARC graphics are going to be better supportive of that. And you're going to have better graphical power for video editing if you want to dabble in video editing a little bit. You're going to have anywhere from 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, and you're going to have a 512 to a 1 terabyte of SSD depending on which configuration you purchase. Now you'll notice that this device has a 100% DCI P3 color accuracy, where the other devices so far have had 67% sRGB. Now we have sRGB, Adobe RGB, and DCI P3. Okay, let's jump into color gamut range and the quality of the screen the device comes with, because that's a lot of times where the price point really starts to shift. You can get a lot of performance in a device and just give it a poor quality screen and save some money. But for me, graphic design, digital art, photography, color accuracy is very important. Color gamut range is very important. Let's explain these. Color gamut range is the range of colors that your screen is able to reproduce. So how many colors is your screen able to present on it? The accuracy is the accuracy of those colors at which they are reproduced. So range and then accuracy. So delta E is all about the accuracy. The range, depending on sRGB, DCI P3, or Adobe, is the colors. Put a chart up on the screen so you can see that the range gets bigger and kind of shifts a little bit as you go towards Adobe and DCI P3. As a whole, OLED displays are going to consistently have the most color accuracy. IPS displays can be color accurate, but they're not always color accurate. Whereas you can pretty much guarantee that an OLED display will be color accurate. So if you're a novice computer buyer, so look for that OLED, you're gonna have good color accuracy. Now moving on to Acer Swift X14, a really good device that has a powerful CPU and a powerful GPU. So RTX 4050 up to a 4070. Being that you're doing graphic design, digital art, or photography, you don't really need a powerful GPU, but it is supportive. It is helpful. And a lot of devices, as they become more premium and get more features, they end up adding dedicated GPUs. There's definitely a number of devices that don't have them, which would be advantageous to you, and we'll talk through those as we continue to go through the list. 16 gigs of RAM to 32 gigs of RAM, and then you can also find this in 512, and I've even seen it in 1 terabyte as well. That has 100% sRGB, and that is going to be, that has 100% sRGB, and I've seen them in both OLED and IPS, but specifically the model that I have in my studio right now is the OLED version. And so that will also have a 98 to 99% DCI-P3, which is great. Lenovo Yoga 7i. This is the Lenovo Yoga 9i, very similar assembly and build. The big difference between the 7i and the 9i is that you're gonna have this really cool speaker from Bowers and Wilkins here in between the hinge. So it's gonna have a bit better of an audio experience. And you can usually find these with more RAM and a little bit better CPU. But the 7i is a great bang for buck. It's gonna have great performance. When I reviewed the 7i earlier this year, it was one of the best performers inside of Photoshop and video editing. And it's honestly one of the more budget-friendly premium laptops. Unfortunately, one of the ways that it kind of catches that budget friendliness is it doesn't have the most color accuracy. And so it's like, dang it, that is an area that we really need as artists, designers, and photographers. So that's where a lot of people end up leaning towards the 2.2K Yoga 9i with better color accuracy and color gamut range. But that's a great device in regards to performance. Now let's talk about the GPU real quick while we're moving into more of these laptops that have dedicated GPUs. Do you need a dedicated GPU to do graphic design? Obviously, graphics processing unit. Don't you need a dedicated GPU to process graphics? Well, actually, the name is should be more of like VPU, video processing unit, or video encoding unit, because it really is more processing the bits of information that are most prevalently found in graphical tasks or video tasks. And so it received the name graphics processing unit because really initially they were created to help with gamers or processing large amounts of information. And so it is a supportive element to your work inside of, say, Photoshop. It does help a little bit, but really the biggest place that it helps is processing the graphics on a screen. And so if you're hooking in multiple monitors to your device, it will help to have a GPU, because to run those monitors, let's say you have 2 or 3 external monitors, you are going to want to have the GPU handling that, not the CPU, because if the CPU handles it, you start to bottleneck your system and the performance will lag in your actual applications. So you're using all this performance from the CPU if you don't have a dedicated GPU to run your monitors. That's why having a dedicated GPU to run your monitors is advantageous to a creative professional or just a student or creator working in digital art, graphic design, or photography who wants to have a smooth system. So it is advantageous. Absolutely the best laptop on this slide, for me personally, would be the MacBook Air 15. I have the M2 version, and it is such a great on-the-go device. It has incredible battery life. It is the cost of most premium Windows laptops at anywhere from around $1,300 to $1,600, depending on how you have it configured. And it just really hits the nail on the head. However, if you want to have a Windows-based device, I would definitely recommend checking out the Samsung Galaxy Book 360 and Pro 360. This will be the equivalent to getting the Apple MacBook Air, but in a Windows model. So as regards to this slide, these would be my top picks. However, each of the laptops on this slide, I would definitely put my money on without a doubt. All right, one of the best laptops of the year for me, from like a best bang for buck standpoint, would definitely be the Lenovo Legion Slim 5. This is the 14-inch model. It's a thin and light gaming laptop. It has great color accuracy, has great performance. It's a great price point. This is a 2023 laptop that I've yet to see them bring back in 2024. So unfortunately, they're really hard to come by at the moment. They are not as available online. I will link it up. And if it's available, it comes and goes. So maybe one week it won't be there and the next week it will. Again, check the links in the description below to see the live pricing and the availability of any of the devices that we have here. Now, the 16-inch model is also a great bang for buck, but I'm pretty biased to the 14-inch. I love how compact and on-the-go friendly it is. It's a great price point. I really, really like it. Next up is the Lenovo Yoga Pro 9i. Also a great device. A little bit more video editor focused, because though it is a touchscreen, it's not pen compatible. So it's not really like a digital artist laptop. It's more photographer, graphic designer, but it's got great features. It has a nice slim design. It's got great audio. It's got the audio coming out from the side, so it really creates a nice immersive audio experience. And overall, I just think it's a great device. You can bring in your pictures or your video directly in through the SD card reader. I really like it. It just isn't the best artist laptop because it's not pen compatible. So take that for what it is. One of the most powerful quality thin and light laptops that I've seen come out so far this year is going to be the Asus ZenBook S16. 3K OLED display, so going to be super sharp resolution, going to be great for a graphic designer or photographer who wants really, really sharp, color accurate display. Great performance, 24 gigs of RAM, and AMD Radeon 880M, so it's going to be a more power efficient GPU, 1 terabyte of SSD, and a super color accurate display. That by far is one of the best laptops on the lineup. It's going to be razor thin and light. It's going to be one that you kind of compare to either like a MacBook Air 15 or a Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360. So those are going to kind of be the three that are competing for your pocketbook, to speak. Okay, MSI Creator Pro 16 AI. This is going to have a dedicated GPU. This is going to be great for people who not only are working in graphic design, but might also do like some 3D modeling or some rendering, that they need a dedicated GPU, but they also want really nice color accuracy, quality build. It's a bit more on the expensive side of things. As you can see, it's a pricey laptop, but it is a really great laptop. I've enjoyed reviewing it a bit in my studio. I saw it at CES 2024. I need to spend a little bit more time with it. I've been so busy with other devices, but that one needs a little bit more attention, but it is a great device. The Asus ProArt PX13. I would say right now, this is one of my favorite devices. It's thin and light. It's sleek as ever. I mean, it's a beautiful device. It has a nice large trackpad. The keyboard is very easy to work on. I like that it's a 2-in-1 laptop that's pen functional. It makes for an incredible designer, artist, or photographer laptop. One of the downsides to this laptop, if you are a photographer, is that it is not a full-size SD card. So it's a micro SD card reader, so you would have to get a dongle for that. It does have the dial directly built onto the trackpad. This is a manual click trackpad, so also great for designers, artists, and photographers. I do not like haptic trackpads if I'm mainly working on the trackpad. If I'm working with a mouse, obviously the trackpad doesn't matter, but for designers and artists and photographers, being able to click and drag efficiently with a manual click trackpad is so much better. But wow, such a good device. I've got tons and tons of content on my channel about this device, and more videos to come. So if you want to dive deep on these, they're ones I've been waiting for 2 years. And that's why I'm spending so much time with them. Dell Inspiron 16, a really good bang for buck. This laptop is around $1,099 on sale, up to $1,499 not on sale. It's gonna have Intel Core Ultra 7, integrated graphics, 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, and a color accurate display. Great device from Dell if you wanna find something like more on the budget friendly side. If you're not looking for like the XPS 16 or the 13, I would definitely consider the Inspiron 16. Next up is the HP Omen 14. This I fanboy over the keyboard every time I talk about it. Some people hate it. I'm one of the ones that loves it. It's beautiful. I mean, look how colorful and beautiful that is. It's a thin and light device with a nice large trackpad. Make a great device for somebody who wants to game, but also create with the color accuracy of the display and the color gamut range that it reaches. It's got a solid battery life with the Intel Core Ultra 9. I would recommend getting it with 32 gigs of RAM, which means you'll have to get the RTX 4070 version with the Intel Core Ultra 9. The Core Ultra 7 version only comes with 16 gigs of RAM, which would not be my recommendation. If you're gonna pay the price for this laptop, you might as well get the best version of the laptop. Asus ZenBook Duo. This laptop is great for somebody who's like hardcore digital artist. Get the 32 gig RAM version with the Intel Core Ultra 9. I've reviewed one in my studio. I have a full in-depth review. You can check it out. I don't have it anymore in my studio. I had to send it back. But it is a workhorse for the digital artist. By far, it's one of the best laptops if you're an artist and you want maximum flexibility with 2 screens, a keyboard that detaches and reattaches. You have a pen. You can obviously purchase a mouse and use a mouse with it. It is it's a great pick. Really, really great pick. And not bad as far as the price point. I think you can get the Intel Core Ultra 9 version for around $1,700. So not bad at all for how much technology is baked into that system. Next up will be the Legion 7i. This to me is the premium laptop that would be a gaming laptop, but can be used for digital art, graphic design, and photography. I don't like to recommend the Pro 5i or the Pro 7i. They're just too chunky. They're too big. If you're looking for a powerful laptop, i9-14900HX, so much power. RTX 4070, plenty of power. 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of SSD, and a color accurate display. It's going to be the best of both worlds. If you want to do gaming and you want to be creative, it offers kind of everything. So that's why I recommend that one, because it's also the thinner of the chassis. Basically what that is it's the old Lenovo Legion Slim 7. They've just renamed it to the Legion 7i. So it's just a bit of a naming skew change. Great device, one of my favorite devices for the past couple of years when it was called Lenovo Legion Slim 7. So just naming skew rename. Naming skew rename. That makes sense. Rename their naming skew. Okay, next is the Asus Republic of Gamers Zephyrus G14, as well as the G16. Two devices, very similar. The interesting thing about the G16 is it comes in both Intel and Ryzen. So no matter if you're a Ryzen fanboy or an Intel fanboy or a fangirl, you can choose the G16. If you're an Intel fanboy or fangirl, you cannot choose the G14 because it only comes in Ryzen. So keep that in mind. But overall, two really great devices. Great specs, great performance, thin and light, color accurate. And the great thing about these devices, though they are premium devices, you can often find them on a really great deal because they're more of a mainstream device, meaning that they're going to sell way more units. And so the pricing doesn't have to be kind of edging higher in order to kind of make the money back. They just know they're going to sell a ton of quantity of these devices, and so they're okay letting them go at a lower price point. So if you go over to like bestbuy.com, check the live pricing, the links below, you'll find these almost always on sale, which is fantastic. Something like the PX13, this is going to maintain a more premium price point. It is a more niche device, but these are 80%, to be honest, of that device. So they make for a good bang for buck. Keep in mind, though, they're going to be slightly more optimized towards gaming, and that will be seen soon on how much more optimized that is over these. I'm going to do the raw, unabridged, authentic reviews here on the channel, and you can see exactly the performance differences and which one you should buy. So keep an eye out for the full reviews because those are where really the rubber meets the road. The MacBook Pro 14 and 16, either M3 Pro or M3 Max. Pretty much overkill for graphic design, digital art, and photography, to be totally honest. Like, if you're a designer, digital artist, or photographer, I mean, you would be set with an M3 Air 15-inch or 13-inch. I would just make sure you upgrade it to 16 gigs of RAM, and, I mean, gosh, that's going to be plenty of performance. Now, if you're going to get into video editing, if you're going to get into motion design, if you're going to get into any sort of 3D modeling or anything along those lines, then yes, the M3 Pro or the M3 Max would be advantageous to you. But, I mean, honestly, it's kind of overkill if you're just doing the Adobe Creative Suite in regards to Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. In my opinion, you might disagree, but in my opinion, you don't need to spend $3,000 to $5,000 on a graphic design, digital art, photography laptop. So take it or leave it, my opinion. Next up is the Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio 2. This is a powerhouse of a device. I think they nailed the device in regards to functionality and performance. So many devices I've seen who attempt to be like the de facto creator laptop end up like trading features for performance. They said, forget it. We're just going to charge a lot of money for this device and put everything into it. And they did that. They gave you an i7-13700H. They gave you an easel setup with a pen functionality, trackpads there, everything you need from the features. And then they threw in a dedicated GPU and up to 64 gigs of RAM and up to 2 terabytes SSD. Now you're going to pay for it. That model is going to be anywhere from $3,200 to $3,800, but it is literally the performance powerhouse and feature powerhouse. The crazy thing is Microsoft has yet to send me one of those to review. I may have to end up just buying one of those. I'll probably wait till the Surface 3 comes out, Surface Laptop Studio 3, and I'll just review that one. But I'd love to check it out because I've never had a chance to review it, but it's like the ultimate creator laptop. It's like, Ben, why haven't you looked at that? Aren't you the creative professional channel? Yes, I am, but I can't review everything. I try to. Okay, next up is the Asus ProArt P16. This is the big daddy of the PX13. It's going to have the larger amount of RAM and a bigger screen. But honestly, a lot of similarities to the PX13 because it maxes out at the RTX 4070. Honestly, that surprised me. I thought this one would max out at 4080, but so far I've only seen it up to 4070. They may come out with another model that's the 4080. I don't know. I'm not saying they've said that to me. I'm just saying it's possible. But really the big advantage is being able to ramp up to 64 gigs of RAM. Also, I was looking at the upgrade path of this laptop earlier, had the bottom cover off, and you can add an additional M.2 drive where you can't the PX13. So the 16 gives you a little bit more opportunity for expanding your storage. And obviously it's a much bigger laptop. You have the dial on the laptop, and I mean, oh, it's just so thin and light. Gosh, it's so light. Really great device. So definitely want to consider checking out the ProArt if you are a creative professional and looking for a Windows device that was built for creators in mind. Okay, so you've been watching through this video and you might say, Ben, where are the Snapdragon Qualcomm ARM chip laptops? And we're to a point right now at the recording of this video that we don't have enough native apps for me to confidently say, yeah, pull the trigger. I'm going to pull money out of my personal wallet to buy one of those devices. That very well may change in 2025, but where we sit right now, I am not confident that the devices are foolproof, ready to go for creative professionals. There's too many other great options on the market for me personally, to risk my money on one of those devices right now. But I'm guessing from the performance that I've seen from them using emulations, because we don't have a lot of native ARM applications for creators yet. Adobe Suite, for instance, at the recording of this video. When that time comes, I think they're going to be better at performing. I think they're going to have more performance. They're going to be more efficient. But at this moment, I cannot confidently say that. So that's why you're not seeing them included. Cool? Comment below if you disagree. Love the feedback, love the conversation. Remember, links in the description below if you're ready to make a purchase or you want to check the live pricing. Also remember that most of the laptops on these lineups I have personal experience with. And on top of that, like I said at the beginning of the video, these are laptops that I would purchase with my own money. So check out the reviews if you want to dive deeper into the devices, or you can go ahead and just make a purchase now if you're like, all right, that's good. I've got it. I know what I want, Ben. I'm going to go for it. I will see y'all in the next video.